Toxic job or forced exit. Now what? A financial psychologist gives us tips. So, oh, excuse me. Excuse me. If you're a Black woman and you are either in a toxic job or maybe you've been forced out of a job, this is a conversation for you. So, if you don't know what a financial psychologist is, you are in for a treat because you are here with Dr. Rocher Brown. If you have not met Dr. Rocher Brown, you again are in for a treat. So, Dr. Rocher Brown is a licensed clinical psychologist like me, but she's also a financial psychologist. So, a financial psychologist, she'll tell you what that is, but you will learn more about what that is. So, again, we are going to be talking about if you're a Black woman currently working a toxic job, or if you've been pushed out of the job market, what are some financial tips for you? Because when you're in a job or if you've been pushed out of a job, sometimes the main concern is what am I going to do about my money? What am I going to do about my money? So the concern about the money and also the concern about your benefits. So today we're going to be talking about the money. And I also want to say that this is kind of like a movie trailer version of the summit because Dr. Rocher is one of our outstanding speakers for the Job Liberation Virtual Summit. And so she's our speaker, and then she's also one of the bonus speakers of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit. So she's going to give us like a high level overview of what she's going to be covering during the summit. But if you want to go like more in depth, then you need to come during to the summit. Okay. So if you want to get your ticket for the summit, that is available to you once you purchase it. So that information is at the bottom of the screen, and it's also going to be scrolling across the screen, and it's also in the description section of this video. Okay. So remember, as a privacy consideration, some of the attendees will not be seen on camera. Also, you have the option of attending anonymously. Okay. Only summit speakers will be seen on camera. Okay. So at the summit, you will be learning about how to replace your income, whether that be if you're trying to go into another job and or starting your own business. You'll be learning about options for replacing your health insurance and your retirement, as well as ways to create multiple streams of income. So if you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I'm also a toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. I'm the co-founder with Marissa Price of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women. So again, we have Dr. Rocher Brown here with us today. So Dr. Rocher, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Good evening, Dr. Kamani. I am Dr. Rocher Brown. I am also known as the Doctor of Rethinking because I help people to remix their thinking so they can make money, manage money, and multiply their money. So just like Dr. Kamani said, I am a financial psychologist. And I think she'll ask a little bit more questions about that. So I'll go in further. But I am a licensed clinical psychologist, been doing that work for like over 20 years at this point. This year marks 20 years of being in that area. But about 10 years ago, I added the component of finances. And that's when I became a financial psychologist.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rocher. So what is a financial psychologist? Because people are like, what? What is that? So wait. Let me take a step back first. So for those of you who don't know how I met Dr. Rocher, let me give you a little background, okay? So when I was still in a toxic job, I knew that I had to get out of there, right? So I took a leave of absence. I started exit planning on that leave of absence because I knew I was not going back to a toxic job. So when I was on leave of absence, I started working with a Black woman business coach, Dr. TK. And when I started working with her, I met Dr. Rocher. And Dr. Rocher is a financial psychologist. So I knew for myself, I needed to replace my income because I knew I was leaving that job. So I was getting that through the coaching. So that was going to help me. But then I also knew I needed to get a handle on my finances. And I also knew that I was a money avoider. So I said, okay, if money issues is the main issue keeping me at my job, then I need to know how to replace my income, but I need to get a handle on my finances. So when I was like, oh, she's a financial psychologist, I need to work with her. So I started working with Dr. Rocher. And so she helped me get a financial exit plan together. And when I worked with her, I was able to get that financial exit plan together and resign and do very, very well. Okay. So based upon that, I then started collaborating with Dr. Rocher, and we now collaborate on financial masterclasses, which we have offered throughout the year. Okay. So that's how I met Dr. Rocher. So, Dr. Rocher, can you share with everyone about what is the financial psychologist and what motivated you to start doing this type of work?
Yes. So, a financial psychologist means that I don't just look at numbers like maybe a financial advisor or financial coach would do. I look at behaviors, patterns, and the emotional relationship people have with money, right?
Mhm.
Because if we think about psychology, right, that's what we do. We look in psychology, we look at behaviors and patterns and emotions. And so I recognized about 10 years ago is how it kind of started. 10 years ago, I had my private practice and people were coming in and they were, feeling stress, depression, anxiety. And then I would recognize that a lot of it had to do with finances, right?
Mhm.
And it could be
Mhm.
just a couple of different things, I had couples come in and they had some issues in communication because of their finances
Mhm.
was coming up. I had a person who was about to retire. It was an older at the time, she was older than me, but she was ready to retire, and she was nervous about retiring. And I was like, you know what? Let's just look at the numbers. It just came to that point where that was the work that was coming
Mhm.
up.
Mhm.
And I was like, I know that, I wasn't directly talking about finance at the time, but I was like, well, why is it so scary to do that? I had
Mhm.
another client scared about taxes as we think about today, right? Huge. She was behind in taxes like a couple of years, right? And just was
Oh.
like, avoiding,
Mhm.
getting that task done. Of course, and the more
Mhm.
years that you avoid, the worse things were getting, right?
Mhm.
And I recognized people were like, catastrophizing, right? Like making things bigger than they
Mhm.
actually were. And I was
Mhm.
like, let's just look at the numbers.
Mhm.
And so that's how it started. And I started recognizing there's clear association between when people are feeling depressed and anxious, how that can impact their finances, right?
Mm. Mhm.
Whether they're trying to cope with it, it would have impacted. But then also, if their money was funny, if their money wasn't right, if they had mismanaged it, it was causing more depression and anxiety.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I started making that connection, and it just started from there. So, like 10 years ago, started to do a couple of just one-on-ones with people, really just my own private practice clients initially.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then it grew into, having like coaching programs and, coaching people one-on-one, further about like, like what's going on, what's causing you to avoid, right? What are different like, relationships you've had with money in the past, right? What did you see? Maybe there's some type of trauma that is associated with money that has you in that same, place, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And of course, and working with you, we've, last several years at this point, started to work with more of like women who are leaving toxic work environments, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And recognizing that these women, they're overgiving, they're over functioning, right? You know what I mean, at their jobs, right?
Mhm.
And feeling financially responsible for everyone. My
Mhm.
target audience often are like Black women professionals,
Mhm.
and oftentimes we come from the world where maybe we're the first people in our families to get degrees, first people in our families to like, is make more money than everybody else, right? And so then you find yourself responsible for your family, not just your immediate family, right? But siblings, mother, father, those kinds of things. And, it makes you get stuck at your job even more because of that.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know?
Mhm. So because a lot of Black women, like you said, feel responsible, and because many times as Black women, we've been told that we have to work twice as hard to get half as much, very
Mhm.
high performing, go into the workplace, and we do all the things we were told to do, right? We go to school, we get the degrees, we get the credentials, and we often rise, but then certain things happen in the workplace. Like we might experience toxic workplaces, or we
Mhm.
might get pushed out of the labor market, like we've seen over 600,000 Black women over the past years pushed out of the labor market.
Mhm.
But we still find ourselves being financially stuck.
Yeah.
Okay. So you talked about sometimes how people might be financially dependent on us. What
Right.
are some other reasons why, even though we have the degrees, the credentials, all those things, that
Mhm.
we might be financially stuck sometimes?
Yeah. You kind of mentioned like we're taught to like, like, to work and go get that good job and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And, it's like some of it is conditioning, right?
Right.
Because we're conditioned to just survive,
Mhm.
and to make things happen and to figure things out. So when things get
Mhm.
difficult, we just try to figure it out, right? And
Right.
we stick it out, thinking that the harder we work, all of a sudden it's going to get better, you know?
Right.
And so I think that's another area that is why we feel stuck. Like, because when we first got that job, we were so grateful for it, you know, and
Mhm.
then things may have started to shift, but you want to, you just try to work it out. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the biggest areas that keeps us stuck. Of course, feeling responsible for not just like like the household that you have in your immediate family, but even other people rely on you to be bringing in, finances, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Also your lifestyle, right? You now have created a certain type of lifestyle. You can be afraid of that lifestyle going away. A lot of times as well, even if you're at that toxic job, you may stick it out because you're afraid of that, going on. I'm not going to be able to shop as often as I used to, and different
Mhm.
things like that can also like lead to that as well. And so I think
Mhm.
like it's so many different things. Like we talk a lot about identity, right? Your
Mhm.
identity can be connected to your finances. I mean your job, right? And
Yeah,
your
yeah.
job title,
Mhm.
you know and so that can also keep you stuck because
Mhm.
who am I if I don't work here, right?
Right.
Like who am I if I'm no longer a psychologist, right? That was I
Mhm.
spent all these years to become a psychologist.
Mhm.
Like who am I now?
Right.
And we don't really see ourselves in entrepreneur land, right? Because that wasn't what we were conditioned to feel, was become
Right.
entrepreneurs and business owners. We see ourselves only in the whatever like pathway that was given towards our degree. So
Mhm.
we think like just get a good job, get some good
Mhm.
benefits, we're done,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
What happens.
Mhm. And, I was just thinking about a few things as you were talking is sometimes I think that when we get in these situations, there's so much frustration that happens when we get into these roles, and we
Hmm.
might be in a toxic job or pushed out of the labor market, and then
Yeah.
we find ourselves in like a financial hole, and it
Hmm.
feels like no matter what we do, we can't get out the hole.
Yeah.
So what would you say to Black women? Because when you feel like you're in a financial hole, you just feel like, well, dang, nothing I can do to make it better, and you just get more and more in the hole, right?
Hmm.
So then you
Hmm.
might start just spending more money. Like it don't matter what I do, I'm just going to stay in this hole. So
Yeah.
what would you say to Black women who feel like they're in a financial hole, number one? And then I also hear Black women say something like, I'm just not good at money. I'm just not good with money. I'm just not
Yes.
good with money, right?
Mhm.
So what would you say about those mindset issues?
Yeah. So I feel like it's like a little like emotional like spiral that often happens, with people when it comes down to their finances,
Mhm,
where they feel like they don't know what to do, right? And so that
mhm,
leads to like some level of avoidance,
mhm.
and so they don't do anything, and then the problem gets worse, right?
Right.
And then that leads into more anxiety, and then anxiety leads to more avoidance, and it just keeps
Mhm,
on like playing off of itself.
mhm,
And one thing that we understand, just like in psychology, right, is like awareness is key, right? Like
mhm,
to get out of any kind of maladaptive behaviors that we're in and that we feel stuck in, is that we
mhm,
need to have like some real awareness, right? Okay,
mhm,
hey, this is what I'm doing. Okay, I'm afraid of the numbers. So let me look at them. Let me see what they actually say, right?
mhm,
Because I think we often, like as I was saying earlier, like catastrophize, right? Like it's like we make it into a problem, not knowing that we can actually be free if we just looked at the numbers, right? Like
hmm,
we look at it like it's not as bad as what we think it is, you
hmm,
know. And so
mhm,
I think that that keeps us in that stuck place because we won't even go look to try to do
mhm,
something different, right? And
mhm,
we think about like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right? So
mhm,
avoidance,
mhm.
right, is going to like is never going to give you the result that you need. So we
Right.
need to like tune back in, right? Like and shift your relationship with money, right? Which
Mhm.
means like it's okay to look at it. It's going to be, I make enough money. I just need to look at it and see where I need to direct the money, right? And
Okay.
so
Mhm.
that's like kind of number one area. And then kind of mention like not being good with money. um
Right.
I think like, a lot of us, and this may be cultural, but it could be in, I'm sure, a lot of different cultures, is that a lot of people never teach us around financial literacy, right? If you
Mhm.
think about school, nobody teaches us. I always tell people like I went to school for billions of years to get a doctorate degree, right? Like, I mean, think about all that. You got K through 12, you got to go through another 4 years of undergrad, go through another 4 to 5 years for master's and doctorate degrees, and not in one of those areas did somebody say, "Hey, take this financial class."
Nope. Nope.
Nobody, right? Like
Nope.
if you think about like nobody cares,
Mm-mm.
about what you're going to do with your finances. And even though we learn math,
Mhm.
right? Oftentimes, we learn math in difficult ways, right? We learn,
Mhm.
we're learning all algebra, geometry, all these kind of things, like all this difficult stuff, but we don't learn the basic math that's important for our real lives,
Right.
you
Right. How
know?
to apply it.
How to apply it, and there's not enough of that that's ever taught. And so what ends up happening, and what I've seen, is that you turn 18, right? Like you're now an adult. And for most of us, we maybe start college at that time. And now we're, hit with a lot of like financial decisions, right? Get a credit
Mhm.
card, how to use the credit
Mhm.
card, what to do with it,
Mhm.
how to pay it off.
Mhm.
And nobody's ever taught us anything,
Mhm.
but people just
Mhm.
giving credit cards to us, right?
Mhm.
Like they're giving
Mhm.
us free money. That's what it
Right.
feels like, right?
Right.
People are doing all these things for us. And then now we have messed up things. Maybe not until we're maybe like 30. We're like, ooh, oh, our credit mattered. Like we
Mhm.
never even learned that until it was like, I want to buy a house. I want to buy a big something. And then
Mhm.
now we recognize what we're doing has affected us in a negative way.
Right.
And then we're trying to learn, right?
Right.
How to get out of it. How do I've already developed these patterns, I already developed these habits, like how do I stop myself from what I already have developed, you know
Mhm.
and then that's when that like shame and embarrassment starts to like kick in. And
Mm.
that shame and embarrassment is another stuck area, right?
Mhm.
Because who wants to tell somebody I made a mistake? Ooh, I
Hmm.
did this with my credit. I didn't pay this bill that I was supposed to pay, right?
Mhm.
I knew better, but I didn't do better, right? And so then that also like gets, it starts to just make us feel even more stuck. And
Mhm.
leads to that more depression and anxiety and all of that. I often call it when people are just addicted to the struggle, right? It's like just so used to being in the struggle. So you're like, it's
Mm.
actually so familiar to me. Let me stay here.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
we don't consciously think of it, right?
Right.
But subconsciously we get
Familiar.
addicted, right? And then you surround yourself by friends who are doing the same thing. Girl, this building came, girl, I know my bills is like this too. So like everybody around you is like in a struggle. So you like, this is where we're supposed to be. Like we never
Mm.
even understand what freedom even looks like or feels like, you know.
Right.
And how, and
Right.
then for those, one is a big thing for me, that often comes up,
Mhm.
is there are some people who do well with their money, right? But they don't tell other people how they did it.
Ah. Why
Like we're
not?
like kind of
Why
we're
not?
like because we're oftentimes, well, I think sometimes it comes with they don't think people are going to listen, right? So
Okay.
sometimes people are gatekeepers on accident, right? They're like, they're not going to hear me. I tried to tell
Mm.
them this, they didn't care, right?
Mhm.
Or it could be that woman at the job who always brings her lunch, but you always go out to eat lunch. You know what I'm saying? Like she's showing you something,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But you're not like, girl, I'm about to go get something to eat. You want
Mhm.
something? Now you buying her
Mhm.
something too, right? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's those little things that's like people aren't tuned in.
Mhm.
So like, well, I'm not gonna say anything about what I do to like
Mhm.
manage my money, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it's almost as people become gatekeepers of good information, right? Because they feel fearful that people aren't gonna listen,
Mm.
you
Okay.
know?
Okay.
So that's a
Mhm.
that's a big deal. I used to have like these big money parties. I still kind of have them, and sometimes I'll share information, and some people will be like, I know that," and other people are like, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" And they were like, "I don't know, just didn't think about it, didn't think you cared to hear,"
Mm.
you know.
So
And it makes
assumptions.
it, yes, but they have
Mm.
assumptions that you wouldn't want to know,
Wow.
like how to do it. Or then some of us, we may notice like, wow, that person's doing really well, but I feel fearful of asking,
Hmm.
what are you doing differently as
Hmm.
well? So.
Okay. And I'm wondering for maybe women who are watching this, if they do feel shame or guilt about
Mhm.
maybe financial mistakes that they've made, how would you suggest that they, I guess, address that shame and guilt?
Yeah, I think like, so just reminding yourself, like I'm really big on giving yourself compassion and
Mhm.
kindness, you
Mhm.
know, like you didn't know what you didn't know.
Mm.
Right? You didn't know what you didn't know, and so it starts off with like recognizing that, like, okay, I didn't know better, right? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Or I hadn't built up the habits yet to do better.
Mhm.
Even if I had some knowledge, I didn't build up the habits yet. And so you just kind of forgive yourself, right? Like, I made a mistake. It's okay. But how do I want to move forward? Right? Who
Mhm.
would I like to be moving forward is,
Mhm.
is is a big thing. And I think
Mhm.
we need to take time. I don't think a lot of us take thinking time. Like why we think journaling is so important. We don't take the time to say, how do I want to move forward?
Mhm.
And if you decide to say, I'm going to sit and actually answer that question,
Mhm.
right? You may say, I want to be better at managing my money, but you're like, then the next question may be, I don't know how. I don't know what to do.
Right.
So
I don't
then
know how.
I don't know how. So
Yeah.
then now you're like, okay, well, let me answer that question, right?
Mhm.
Like, okay, is there somebody out there who can help me through this process, right?
Mhm.
Who can give me the skill sets, so I can learn how, right? And
Mhm.
so maybe you meet a Dr. Rocher, you meet somebody else that's like, going to teach you. It could even be a friend, right? It doesn't,
Mhm.
matter, but you like, okay, how I'm going to get that how, you know?
Mhm.
And then you may learn the how, and then this is where I really come in as the financial psychologist, is that you
Mhm.
like, it's so hard to do, right? Like I know what to do now.
What
But
makes it so hard to do?
I think there's so many different things, but I think a big thing is habit forming, right? When we're in a
Mhm.
habit state of
Mhm.
whatever that is, right? It's like
Mhm.
it's locked into our nervous system,
Mhm.
right? Like
Mhm.
how we're behaving.
Mhm.
And so what I do sometimes with people is I try to get an understanding as what made them not be able to do it, right? Like,
Okay.
just trying to talk, and we're in our conversation, and I'm learning more about them. One of the biggest areas that I recognize is like stress levels, right? This was like it's in our nervous system.
Mhm.
If I look at your stress levels, I can see maybe why you made certain choices, right? So your stress level is high.
Mhm.
Maybe just to numb out, you're scrolling and you're buying, right, online,
Mhm.
right? Because you're
Mhm.
just like,
Mhm.
this is my relaxed time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe one of your numb outs is like one of the vices, right? It could be alcohol, it could be like smoking, something like
Mhm.
that. Like it's a numb out moment, right? Like,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
because of your stress levels. It could be
Mhm.
eating, right? Like, oh, I want something good to eat. Let me just order something, right?
Mhm.
That also has to do with it. So it can be stress levels, it can be exhaustion. Like I'm just
Mhm.
too tired to think about what to do, or even
Mhm.
tired to think about what to cook.
Mhm.
And so it's like, so really it's not us like changing your finances. I have to tell you how to manage your stress,
Ah.
right? And
If
so we
that
can
leads to certain behaviors, it's gonna impact your finances.
exactly. So then I realized that that's the real issue here. The real
Mhm.
issue is stress levels, right? The
Mm.
real issue can even be communication with your partner, right? Like that's come up a lot as well. Particularly, this is not for every Black woman, but this has been
Mhm.
a area that I've seen a lot. Is
Mhm.
Black women, because being professionals, making more money than their partners,
Hmm.
right? And taking on a higher financial burden because of that, right? And
Hmm.
so then how do you ask your partner to contribute more? Like, I don't even know how to have that conversation. I only know how
Hmm.
to be frustrated and get mad at when it doesn't happen, but I don't know
Mhm.
how to properly communicate. I need more support, right?
Hmm.
Those things happen for women all the time. And so it's like, okay, well, let me teach you how to communicate that to that person, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So then that can be the area that might, that will change your finances, that you get a higher contribution from your partner. Because a lot of
Mhm.
people assume that people just should know. Well, he should know.
Right.
That's not how it works. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it just doesn't work that way. He doesn't
Right.
know anything. Okay. Especially if he
Right.
moved into your household, right? Like, he doesn't know. Like,
Mhm.
so you have to tell him and explain, what's important, right? And so how do we
Mhm.
overcome that fear to have that conversation, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
a lot of those things are, things that kind of I work with, people on.
Okay, okay. And for
Yeah.
Black women who've been pushed out of the labor market, right? And I
Yes.
know you and I did an emergency money tips masterclass for Black women earlier.
Yeah.
Was it earlier this year? I can't
It was
remember right now.
last year, late
Yeah,
last year.
last year. Yeah, it was last
Yeah.
year. So what would you offer or say to Black women who've been pushed out of the labor market in terms of what they can do in terms of stabilizing their finances? Because I
Mhm.
can imagine that level of like panic,
Yeah.
once you lose a job of, oh my gosh, what am I going to do about, paying my
Mhm.
bills? So what
Yeah.
kind of things would you suggest in terms of financial tips and that more immediate for Black women?
Yes. Well, first, validate your emotions, right? Like
Mhm.
you get to have every emotion that you, need in that time. Like, feeling a little, feeling anxiety, feeling panic, feeling uncertain, right? And just being okay with that. But it's good when we think about financial tips, it's always going to go back to this area that everybody doesn't want to do. Okay. But the awareness and looking at the numbers, whew, I know it's scary. Like I know,
Deep breath,
right?
deep
Like
breath. Yes.
it's that like, yeah. So I'm really big, like take some deep breaths, do a little bit at a time, if you haven't done it, but like just getting aware of things, one of the first steps that I tell people to do is track your numbers, which just means like look back at maybe your previous month.
Mhm.
And all I want you to do is say, what happened on day one? Curious, what did I spend my money on? Right? Day two, what happened? It's a very simple technique. However, most people don't want to do it. But we're not doing it for judgment. So you have to be
Mhm.
very clear, like, I'm not judging myself for what I chose to do. I am
Mhm.
just becoming more aware of what I do,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
when I have awareness, I can make changes, right?
Right.
But I can't make changes out of what I don't know, you
Mhm.
know? And so that's going to be the number one tip is to understand what's happening, right?
Mhm.
And that is
Mhm.
for anybody, right? But if you have just left your, just lost your job, we need to be clear on what it is, right?
Mhm.
We talked about this in the financial class, but in that 911 emergency class. But
Mhm.
now you can start looking and seeing like where can I get support, right? Like can I contact utility companies and see if this bill can go away in some type of way? Can it be lowered, right? You start looking because now that you understand the numbers, now we can start doing different things with the numbers,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so you kind of start looking at those things. Then you get very clear on like one of the things I always say is your survival number. Like, what do you like? What's that number that you need to survive? You
Right.
know, and
Right.
once you know the bare minimum of what you need, now you start looking at your life and just just Black people in general, right? We're kings and queens, and we just have so much power inside of us. Okay,
Mhm.
and one of the things is that we all have all these talents, and gifts and all these kind of things that can be monetized, and so you start to look at like, what did you used to do at that job? The things that were on your job description and the things that weren't.
Right.
Right? Like you start to look at that and you're like, wait, okay, this is what my job description said, but I also was baking goods for everybody every Friday. That was something that had
Mhm.
nothing to do with your job description, but it's part of what you know how to do.
Mhm.
You might even start to learn like, wow, I'm really organized. I had all this organization with these things and was helping out my other colleagues with this kind of stuff. You start
Mhm.
to learn what your strengths were, right? What
Mhm.
kind of abilities you had, right? We often
Mhm.
call it price tags, right? So tags, talents, abilities, gifts, my strengths, my skills,
Mhm.
right? And we look at those and we say, who else needs them, right?
Mhm.
Because an entrepreneur is only a problem solver,
Hmm.
right? So you look and see like, well, who else has this problem that I know how to solve,
Hmm.
and
So
then
even
I
as an
go,
entrepreneur, or even like if you pivot into another job, you even
yeah,
know how to market yourself if you are
better.
trying to pivot to another job too.
True. Right. Exactly.
Mhm.
Like, because you'll be
Mhm.
very, very clear on your skills.
Right.
Right. So you know how to
Right.
align yourself with a different type of job. Maybe it
Mhm.
wasn't the exact job that you had before. Right. But now, if
Mhm.
you look at the skill sets and match
Mhm.
that up against the job description, you're like, oh, I could do this job. Right.
Mhm.
Something I never
Mhm.
thought of before, but this will be a great opportunity. And so
Mhm.
you kind of match yourself up with those things. And so I
Mhm.
think those are like the major tips, right? Awareness first, right? Then we figure out how do we direct things, get that survival number together. And then we figure out like how do we use, all of these talents in order for us to make more money.
Mhm. Absolutely, right? We need to know the numbers,
You
right?
know, you
And
get
then find out,
started what
like,
you gotta do.
where, like, all the bleeding is going, if we could decrease that, and then
Yes,
find out how we can start generating some money.
yes,
Prepare for that. Okay, okay, so
yes,
the strategy comes there. So,
yes.
Dr. Roche, can you
Mhm.
talk just a little bit, right? Because we don't want you to give all the goodies
Yeah.
away. Can you share just a little bit about what you're gonna be covering at the summit, at the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women?
Yes. So the summit, this is so exciting. It's like the third year
Yes.
of doing this. And so normally in that particular class, one of the areas is people want to get their money straight. So we're gonna talk about, getting your money together, and doing, like, I call it a financial health day. What is included in that financial health day that you need to pay attention to? How to, one of the areas is like benefits. What am I going to do with benefits? Like
That's
figuring that
huge.
out, and touching bases on benefits. I'm also licensed as a life insurance agent. And so I like to explain to people that, life insurance at your job is not enough,
And it
and
might not go with you. Like, I
and it,
learned that too.
and it
Yeah.
may not go with you, right? So when you
Right.
leave your job in any capacity, right, even if it's retiring, which is considered a positive way of leaving the job, it still may not go with you, right?
Mhm,
So we need to
mhm,
be protected ourselves, right? We need to
mhm,
understand what that's all about. We
mhm,
need to know what to do with the finances, that you get from your job, your 401k. How am I going to keep that retirement going? So
mhm.
we talk about that. We even talk about like a timeline, so depending on where you are in your life, right? So maybe some people, feel like they need to leave right away. What you going to do about that? Right. But some people may have a little bit more time. And how do you prepare yourself for leaving?
Yeah.
So all of those things are going to be covered, in the class. We have like a bonus session, that goes even deeper into, that information as well. So I believe it depends on what tier you're
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you're on the top tier, you get a bonus class. We go even deeper into that information that's necessary. I offer me, right? So I offer an opportunity to actually meet with me one-on-one. So actually having a individual session for free, that's just part of your ticket price, that you can ask me specific questions, right? Taking the information that you got from the class, maybe applied some of it, then you're like, hey, I'm a little stuck here. You can ask me specific questions, in order for us to like work through it, whatever is the stuck place.
That
you
is
know
priceless. That is
yeah,
truly priceless. It really is. It really is. So I heard that you recently wrote a book.
I did.
Yes. Can
Yes,
you please
yes.
share with the community about your new book?
Oh,
What is it
definitely.
about?
You can almost see it. There you
I
go.
can see it. Yes.
So it's rethinking money. Let me see if you guys can see. I'm gonna go up this way. Hi.
Oh,
Okay.
I love that graphic. That's
So it's rethinking
beautiful.
money, and it's the behavioral blueprint for healing your relationship with money and building wealth. Okay. And when I talk about finances, I often talk about the 5 M's of money. Okay. And so, number one is that we need to get our money mindset together. So the
Mhm.
book goes through like money mindset, right? It even tells you a
Mhm.
story about my lifestyle and how I grew up. Okay.
Okay.
So it's money mindset. Now manifestation is a big thing as well, like manifesting, and attracting good things into your life. And
Mhm.
that is more weaved into all the different topics, but that's one of the other M's, is like manifestation. And then I go into like making money. Like, how do you go about making money?
Mm.
What are the skills that you need to make money? I
Mhm.
go into managing money, right? Like having that financial health day, the information that we've covered practically on all of our master classes that have cost a lot more, right? Like, to be a part of, but I add all that information in here. I also go into multiplying money. I speak about life insurance. I speak about like, investing, understanding some of like the retirement accounts, 401k versus 403b, right? Understanding taxes. So I go through a lot of different areas in here, but this is the most powerful part, let me tell you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Inside of the book, and I'm gonna see if I'll be able to show it on here, but Inside the book, I literally have, you might be able to see that QR code. You might see that QR
Uh-huh.
code.
I see it.
And the QR codes give you coaching with me. And so what I have done is, financial health day by yourself, kind of scary, right? But what you're able to do is click on the QR code, and then you will hear me. Is I have a video of me going through what to do for your financial health day. I go through the breathing exercise with you to get you started, tell you when to pause,
Oh,
right? So you can pause and say, and go do the actual activity, unpause, come back, right? So, one of the biggest areas for me, I just know my superpower. I feel like my superpower is my energy, my excitement,
it
the
absolutely
fun
is. It
that I
absolutely is.
bring. And so I was
I
like,
concur.
how do I create that inside of a book, right? There's some people who love to read, there's people who don't love to read, but I need them to get this information, and so it comes with the QR codes go into a whole like video series, and that video series covers like the financial health day. It covers like your cash flow. It covers like debt without shame, how to like get out of debt, and what your process would be to start to look at your debt. And it goes through of course life insurance. It even has a vision exercise around like who your future self's going to be. So it goes through it. We have multiple videos that are in there. And I may even add more videos as things come up, that makes sense. Right now, there's just like seven major videos. And if you only go through the videos and you don't even read the book, it will be the transformation. So those of you guys who don't want to read, but you get the book in order to like, get the QR codes, it'll help you through your process, like the steps that I talk about that are important to getting your finances together.
That's fabulous. That's
Yeah.
It's like a whole course
Right.
of videos or books or the
Yes.
book.
Yes.
Okay. And how can people get the book?
And you can go to go www.rethinkingbooks.com. So it's
Rethinking books.
rethinkingbooks.com.
Okay.
My goal, as the future, aligns me, is that I would love to make this a series, right? So where there's like people like, I need more of this, I need more about making money or more about managing money, that I will like create another book like that'll be supplemental to this book that will go deeper into whatever is that like my community is asking more of. And ideally it will be another, a whole deep book about making money, a whole deep book about managing money, multiplying money. Like it'll have other like books. And, even like when it comes down to making money, I'm going to collaborate with other people that I know who know how to make money in different ways, right? Like I have a friend who does government contracts. So she'll talk about this is how you do the government contract area, right? I have friends who do nonprofits. Hey, this is how you can financially make money in nonprofit area. We'll talk about the toxic job area inside of the making money area, right? Like, and so I'll have you do like a section too. So I'm telling you now. But like that, people that I know, even Dr. TK, who was one of your business coaches, right? Like so have other people offer other ways to make money, because sometimes we're limited to our abilities to even think about that, right?
Exactly.
And so like having more people to kind of explain, how do you do this, right? Like taxes. Oh my God, that's scary. Okay, well I have a tax, my tax professional is going to do a section talking about like taxes and what you like, the very simple ways to get there for everything.
I
So
think that's
that's how it's
incredible.
set up. Yeah.
That's incredible. Okay. So tell us about, because your superpower definitely is energy and just your knowledge of finances and how you do not make finances boring.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You don't make it boring. You don't make it scary. You don't
Right.
make it intimidating. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, we're gonna look at the numbers, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like, but you're like, okay, let's just do it. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
But that is really necessary because so many of us avoid looking at the numbers. So,
Yes.
Dr. Rocher, can you also share with everybody what are the other services that you offer and how can you be contacted?
Yes. And so you guys can follow me on like social media. So you can go to Dr. Dr. Rocher. You can DM me if you like. That'll be a easy way to like follow me on Instagram. You can also go with workwithdrrocher.com. That will go directly to my calendar, and it'll give us opportunity to do like a discovery call and see what's going on for you. Like, what are your goals and do they align with what I do? And so we can talk about that as well. And then also, of course, I'm licensed as a life insurance agent. So if you know, like, I need to get life insurance, or I need to understand my current life insurance better, then I also offer that as well. That I could actually review your life insurance policies. Are you underinsured? Do you need more? Like, what should we do? Is it the right time? Is it going to expire soon? So we can review that. But if you don't have life insurance at all, then we should start talking about that as well, and the different functions of life insurance that are very important. And so I cover all those areas, right? So we have, like, my coaching, like one-on-one coaching, or I call them like having VIP sessions with me, which you can just go to Work with Dr. Rocher for that. Life insurance, Work with Dr. Rocher for that as well. We'll get you there. And then you can go directly, to rethinkingbooks.com to get the books.
Okay. Did I spell that right?
Yep. Rethinking. Yep. Rethinkingbooks.com.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And workwithdrrocher.com?
And yep. You got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Fabulous. Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody, got a special treat for you. This is the premiere of the 2026 Job Liberation Virtual Summit trailer. Okay.
Ooh.
So I just got it. And Glamazzini, if you don't know Glamazzini, so Glamazzini on YouTube created this for Marissa and I. So I'm going to share with you the movie trailer version of the 2026 Summit. So I'm going to try to share with you because technology is, I'm coming a long way. Okay. So I'm going to try to share this with you. Let me see. Share screen. Okay. I think I got it. Okay. Can you see it, Rocher?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Make it big. Oh, wait.
You see it?
Yeah, I can, but pause real quick.
Now with this
go to the full screen. You see the full screen all the way to
here?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Toxic jobs don't just ignore your brilliance. They make you question whether it was ever really real.
How does stress show up for you physically? Brain fog, headache, feeling on edge.
Thinking about who you were before the workplace. Maybe you were bold, soft, curious, creative.
Leaving a toxic job is not just about emotion. You need to be strategic about it.
You get to tell your own story. You get to start all over if you want to. Toddlers don't know limitations. Allow your inner child to play and create the world that this world told you was unimportant.
You shift the way in which you think about how money is earned and moving from scarcity to abundance mindset.
I make money easily and effortlessly.
So again, we're open and signs are revealed to us. We need to pay attention to that and be courageous enough to follow up with that.
Make sure you read your company policy.
Where can we get $1,500 a month? If it's bringing in over $1,500 a month, then we are financially free.
My freedom is in the desire, and my freedom is in the action. If you are waiting for someone to give you something that they benefit from keeping from you, it's not going to happen.
Can you view yourself as accomplished without a job that says you're accomplished?
But if you are talking about liberating yourself, you're going to have to be number one. You're going to have to be not selfish, but self-full. You're going to have to get familiar with the idea that you will no longer tolerate toxicity in any shape or any form in your life.
Looks like this summit is about jobs and work and money, but this summit is about your dreams. This summit is about your life, a life beyond your wildest dreams.
The 2026 third annual Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women happening online May 1st through the 3rd. Registration is open.
And Black women, we do not panic, we pivot.
Hey.
Oh, I love being a Black woman. If I gotta come through this experience again, please, Lord above, make me a Black woman. I don't want to be
Right.
anything but.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Love
Okay.
it.
So let me come back. Okay, that was dope. Okay, I love being
That's
a Black
so
woman
cool.
too. Okay, so again, Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women, third annual. It is for Black women who are either in a toxic job or who have been pushed out of the job market. As I mentioned before, Dr. Rocher Brown is one of our speakers. So she's one of our regular speakers, but she's also one of our bonus speakers as well. So yes, it does look amazing. So again, information about the summit is available on the website. And if I am able to please share, let me see if I could please share the the let me share with you the hold on one second. See. Okay, let's see. Sorry. Okay. So let me share with you the summit if you haven't seen the page for the summit. Okay. So for those of you who have not seen it, I will share with you the information for the summit. So hopefully we can see you there. So remember, it's a privacy consideration. You will not be seen on camera and you could attend anonymously. Okay. So I will briefly share this and then we will start winding down. Okay, so can you see my screen, Rocher?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so this is the page for the summit, and you will see that when you click the link. Okay, so these are the different tiers of tickets. Okay, so we have the standard pass, which is $77, and this one gives you access to the summit, right? Live and the replays you have available for 1 week. Okay, you have access to the live and the replays for 1 week because you may not be able to come live. So you only have access to the replays for 1 week, okay? The premium pass gives you access to the lives, the replays, you have access for 1 year, and then you have access to 3 bonus sessions. Dr. Rocher is one of those bonus sessions. The other 2 bonus sessions all deal with finances, okay? Because we all need to get our finances together, okay? So it really deals with ways to really look at our finances, but also to build up our finances, okay? And then for the first time ever, Marissa and I are coming together to offer the Liberation Accountability Circle, which provides coaching for Black women who need that extra level of support. So if you are building an exit plan or if you are trying to work on a pivot plan, if you've been pushed out, or if you're trying to create multiple streams of income, the Liberation Accountability Circle provides you with that additional level of support and coaching by Marissa and I. There are 6 coaching sessions via Zoom over the course of a year. So you get not only the live, the replays, the bonus sessions, but you also get the coaching sessions. Okay. So want to share that with you. And I also want to let you know, if you were not already aware, that the summit was featured in MSN recently. So check out that article. Okay. So Dr. Rocher, do you have any last words that you want to share with the community before we wind down today?
Don't feel stuck. You're powerful, right? You just need some structure, to get your finances, in order. And that's what I'm here for, right? Is for us to help you to get unstuck and to begin to have structure, right? And that gives you more options to have freedom.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking for. We're trying to liberate out here. And so that helps us get to that point. And so that's what I'm looking for to help you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys at the Job Liberation Summit. It's only a couple weeks away. So
yes,
see you soon.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm so excited that Dr. Rocher is going to be there. I'm so excited that I even met her
Yeah.
because I don't know how I would have effectively left that job if I didn't meet her, because I would have been like, oh my God, I don't know what to do about my money. And I don't know. I would have been a mess, a hot mess.
Yes.
So I'm so thankful that I met Dr. Rocher and that we've collaborated and that I knew that she is brilliant at what she does. So because she is so good at what she does, I was like, I need to try to share her with as many Black women as I can.
Yes.
Honestly, okay? So everyone, please check out the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women. Again, registration is going across the screen. It is also in the description section of this video. Okay, so thank you again, Dr. Rocher. Please give this video a thumbs up. Please share this video with at least 2 other Black women. Subscribe to my channel. It is absolutely free. And I will see you later, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.